Yes, now it's 11 o'clock. We have this digital event with Curasight today. My name is Henrik Ekman. I'm equity analyst here at HC Andersen Capital. And with me today, I have CEO Ulrik Krasilnikov and CSO and co-founder Andreas Kjær. As always, the format is that the management will present key highlights from their presentations. And after that, feel free to ask questions in our chat, and I will try and forward it to Ulrik and Andreas. And with that, a very warm welcome to both of you. We have a Q4 report with a lot of activities. So what are the highlights for the report?
Thank you, Henrik, for the presentation. And we have prepared a small presentation for you to give you an update for the year we have closed, 2021, and also we will give you an update on what's going forward. Just a short disclaimer about the statements we are coming with is for your own assessment. Yeah, first I will take you through the figures. It will be just some highlights on the figures. I'm not going deep in each report as it had already been disclosed. So just some highlights on that, and then we will look at the highlights from 2021. We will give you a glance on the updated strategy. And furthermore, we will look into the milestones for 2022. First of all, this is both the quarter report for Q4 last year and the annual report, which sums up here. And we are still a development company, meaning that we don't have any revenues, so no sales amounted, which is also reported in the figures. We have a operation profit, which is a loss. If we take the total year around, sums up to around 6.2 million Danish crown compared to 4.7 the year before. And that is mainly reflected, among others, also by the transaction costs, both with the IPO and the issuing and the exercise of the warrants in Q4 this the year in October 2021. So if you take the total profit loss for the year, it sums up to around minus 7.5 million Danish crown compared to minus 5.5 million the year before, and that is according also to the budget. If you look at the assets, totally it sums up and amounts to around approximately 100 million, and compared to 63 million the year before, and that is mainly the cash increase of the capitalization we have done in Q4 last year. So in total, we have also a very good cash position by the end of the year, which sums up to around 73 million Danish crown compared to 36 the year before. Just some highlights. We have a more detailed a glance of the highlights, but if you want to dig into the highlights, you could take them from here in each quarter. I'll sum it up here in a better way. And first of all, I would like to highlight again the 2 awards we were awarded with in the spring 2021. Based on we got 2 prizes from the best IPO in 2020 by the independent IPO grade, one from the excellent stock price and one from the development and quality in the company. Furthermore, we have initiated the preclinical study in therapy with uTreat and also reported on that in June last year. And furthermore, there have been published very exciting results from the phase 2 study in prostate cancer, and that was also highlighted and issued in the Nuclear Medicine Journal of Nuclear Medicine, which is the highest rank and scientific article. And then we have strengthened our patent portfolio with issued patents in uTreat both and also in uTrace in the US and EU and Canada. So also that is a very good position for us going forward. And then we have initiated the commission research with SEB, and they have some recommendation for the valuation range that is based on the old strategy, only comprising 2 strategy indications, and now we are adding 2 additional indications to the current, and we will come back to that also. But this is still, we'll see, we far away this window, but this is due to other external circumstances, unfortunately, in the world. And then, of course, I also want to highlight the exercise of the warrants in Q4 with a ratio of 98%, meaning that we got around 47 million Danish crowns in additional funding, meaning that we have a very good cash position going forward. And just some, before we go more in detail to the updated strategy, but this is just to say what is the real objectives for Curasight going forward, and that is, of course, to improve the lives for millions of cancer patients. And furthermore, we want to be to improve and offer better treatment options, meaning also that we've got more precise treatments and more gentle and more efficient treatments for the cancer patients. And furthermore, we want to develop and be the leading diagnostic company within this field, meaning also that what you see is what you treat, meaning that we are combining both the diagnostic path and also the therapeutic path, but Andreas will come back to that. So, and our goals in general, and what is really clear for us, is also to get the first product and the first approval by FDA in the first indication, and that is still brain cancer in 2025 going forward. Very briefly about the market, just to sum up, it's still a very attractive market, and that is also one of the reasons that we want to accelerate the portfolio of our indications, because it will strengthen our position considerably going forward. Yeah, then I will hand over to Andreas.
Thank you very much, Ulrik, and thank you also to HC Andersen Capital for having us. I'll go through the technology and then the update on the strategy. So just to remind everybody that what we have is a theranostic platform, which is a combination of the diagnostic part called uTrace and the therapeutic part called uTreat. The 2 things together are known as theranostics, and they work in synergy because it's the same ligand that binds. One version is for imaging and one is for therapy, and in that way we can predict by imaging whether the therapy will work. And uPAR, our target we are working with, is we think a very intelligent target because it's relatively cancer specific, but it's not cancer type specific, and that makes really the Curasight technology quite unique, as we can potentially, and I come back to that with the pipeline and the updated strategy, we can approach most of solid cancer types, whereas most other companies and technology working in this area, they are limited to one cancer type because the target select is only expressed on one type. Furthermore, uPAR indicates how aggressive the cancer is, and that this is why, for instance, in prostate cancer, we can use this to predict and find out how patients should be managed. But we also, when we target with radionuclide therapy, so local radiation therapy, we also target the most aggressive cells. So we can, with less radiation, are we expecting to get a better outcome? But I'll come back to that. The game-changing thing about targeted radionuclide therapy, and the principle is basically, you could call it internal radiation instead of external radiation. So instead of having an external beam irradiate you from outside, which is the normal concept today, you inject a compound that seeks out the cancer cell and then locally irradiates. and the technology we have has only a range of 1 millimeter. So this gives the ability that it sits on the cancer, and all metastasis, it irradiates there, but it has very little radiation to the surrounding. And this is in contrast to external radiation therapy, where you basically irradiate through healthy tissue, and therefore you have much more side effects. So in Curasight's view and my personal view, these technologies of targeted radionuclide therapy will take over eventually most of external radiation therapy. On top of that, you have to remember that 60 to 70% of all cancer patients today receive radiation therapy. So the market, the potential for irradiating with this new way is very large. And the theranostic pair we use, uTrace and uTreat, is just illustrated up here. And you can see the receptor uPAR is here illustrated in red. Then we have our binding peptides, that is what is called AE105. And then we have armed it with two different types in the two versions of radioactivity. Either gallium, which is harmless and can be used for imaging, or lutetium-177, which is not harmless because it's intended to do local radiation therapy, but has a very short range, so it irradiates the most in the tumor and very little in the surrounding tissue. So this is a wonderful technology, and as you know, and we previously have been shown, this has been concluded. This has been studied in 8 different cancer types. Many of these studies are now concluded, and for that reason, we have revisited our strategy, and this is the first time we really show this new pipeline slide, which is now only showing indications we want to pursue from Curasight's side. There are still going studies on investigator-initiated in other indications, but these are the indications where we have confidence that the uTrace and uTreat platform will be valuable. And in addition to brain cancer, which you know is our primary indication still, and what the capital was primarily raised for, we also still go for prostate cancer, primarily in imaging, but we now added 2 more indications where phase 2 studies have been published with extremely promising data, and that is head and neck cancer and neuroendocrine tumors. And the data that came out of the investigator-initiated studies in these 2 indications not only demonstrated that it could be used for prognostication and therefore a strong imaging technology, but they also formed the basis for saying it looks very promising to pursue the targeted radionuclide therapy with uTreat in these 2 indications. And why do I say that? It's because we could see at a large part of the tumors were positive when we looked with uTrace, and we could also see that it was highly prognostic, meaning that if you irradiate these cells, it's very likely to have a good outcome for the patients. So this is the updated strategy, and you can say what we decided in Curasight is also part, going back to what Ulrik said, the strong cash position we have currently. This allowed us for pursuing a more parallel strategy rather than a sequential strategy. And this also opens up for potential partnerships within more indications, and the different indications have different opportunities for partnership, not necessarily one partner wanting to partner on all indications. So we believe we really strengthened and increased the value, of course, of the Curasight pipeline. I will just show you, because we have covered this previously, but just say a little bit about the added indications. And one of these indications is head and neck cancer, where the phase 2 study was published. It's the 6th most common cancer, so relatively many cases. it's not so easy to treat, and external radiation therapy carries a lot of side effects, partly because you get necrosis of bone, because you have to irradiate if it's in the mouth through the bone structure of your jaw, and this gives a lot of problem. If we could move this into targeted radionuclide therapy, it's likely that it would be much more gentle for the benefit of the patient. And these patients do receive largely radiation therapy already. On the imaging side, this is just the outcome of the study that was published. And here, what you can see is on the blue lines up here, that using uTrace, it was possible to identify, and these are survival curves. So you start out with all patients alive here, and then when they die off, you can see out here, only 50% are still alive. And by dividing this group based on high or low uptake of uTrace into two groups, we could actually identify a group of approximately 1/3 of the patient that had extremely good survival. And the clinicians tells us that this is extremely valuable because these patients could be de-escalated in therapy. They could get a much more gentle therapy, and they could be followed up with longer intervals, because we could predict that this group has a very good prognosis. On the other hand, the other group should be managed as they are today more aggressively. So this would really be cost effective and benefit the patients, not being over-treated and not being over-monitored if it's not necessary. And these are some of the things we will pursue both with the uTrace and uTreat technology. If we go to neuroendocrine tumors, this is not less interesting, because there we showed that the majority, more than 70% of these patients, express UPAR, are UPAR positive, and these patients are already treated with targeted radionuclide therapy, the Novartis compound called Lutathera, but this only works in a small proportion of the patients, because the target that they are going for is only expressed in some of the tumors and not in the most aggressive ones. In contrast, uTrace or UPAR is expressed in the most aggressive cancers, in the most aggressive ones needing therapy the most. And therefore we fill a gap, we believe we will fill a gap with our technology. And on top of that, these patients are managed at departments that are already used and acquainted with using the principle of targeted radionuclide therapy. So the barrier to get these physicians and surgeons to treat their patient with targeted radionuclide therapy, and hopefully uTreat in the future, will be much lower. And therefore this is, we believe, a great entry into another disease entity. Yeah, so I can maybe continue with this, Ulrik. So this is basically just putting in, with these new indications, we are facing an extremely interesting 2022. And the first two milestones we earlier mentioned is the results from the head and neck cancer and from the neuroendocrine tumor. And those have already been published, the results from the National University Hospital. Then we are within a month expecting that the results of the 2B study in glioblastoma will be available. This is an investigator-initiated study, so we have to await that they are published, but we expect positive results from this. And then we just, with this meeting, are presenting the accelerated and broadened strategy for uTrace and uTreat, where we are now going for 4 indications and not only 2. And it should be pinpointed here that this is not delaying neither the brain nor the prostate indication. So it is due to our bandwidth and cash position the ability to develop this in parallel. And then we have the trial readout from the preclinical study of the therapy in glioblastoma that has been communicated earlier, that we await this in 2022, but we also now initiate studies within neuroendocrine tumors and head and neck cancer with uTreat. And you should remember that the uTreat technology has been proven in academic studies already to work in prostate cancer and colorectal cancer. So we are not foreseeing that it should not work in these indications, but of course we need the specific data where we also test the uTreat technology in the specific indications we want to move forward with. And then as the last part is that during 2022, we are preparing all the paperwork for a phase 3 study in glioblastoma. So a lot of exciting things going on, and more than previously communicated with a broadened strategy throughout 2022. Yeah, and with that I hand it over to you, Ulrik, again.
Thank you. And this is just to highlight for you that the potential or partnerships in general, when we are pursuing the theranostic principle, also will be part of the strategy going forward. And some of the companies, it's not all of them here, but some of them here will potentially be part of our strategy going forward, also in order to accelerate the program and to penetrate the market after approval. So also very interesting for us. This is the board as it is, and it was extended last year and strengthened by Kirsten Dreyer, a very knowledge and experienced person within Danish biotech, and we're very happy that she has stepped on the board also. So and she was former CEO and founder of Symphogen, and has also been part of a heavy capitalization of the company. And then this is the head persons in Curasight, and recently Hanne Damgaard joined the team, and she is also a very heavy person within development in general, and she was actually the employee number 4 in Genmab, and has been part of that experience and really amazing development of Genmab in general. So we are very glad to see it will take part of our journey going forward also. Yeah, then it was the short presentation. Then we hope there are some. You can see there are some good questions also. I hope you will be able to answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Ulrik, and thank you very much, Andreas. That was very interesting as always. It's a fascinating concept, the theranostic concept. So there's some questions already. Some of them relating to the timeline and of the various products. There's one question relating to if the phase 2 study is in brain cancer is already finished, but it just awaits publication. And also there's this question regarding if you can provide the audience with an update on the timeline for uTreat and GBM. So perhaps that's a question for Andreas.
Yeah, I can say that there are still some, not so many, but there still needs to be included a couple of extra patients that was delayed by COVID, but this is expected basically to be within the next month or two that they are included. So that is the reason why. So it's not like everything is ready and it's just waiting for the publication. Of course, the data will be known basically when there's no follow-up in this study because it's looking into the connection between cancer and the uptake. So this is why we have put the timeline as H1. We do not see that we are that this delays anything because we know the design of that study, and we already work with how our design of the phase 3 study should be made. So it's not delaying on that side. Then on the glioblastoma and the therapy, that is ongoing at the CRO we are working together with. So these very weeks and months, things are being tested and animals are being injected. And that's what I think we did put the readout, because it needs to be a final readout. The tumors needs to grow in the animals. These are human tumors implanted in animals. And then the therapy is done over weeks, and you are following the animals for a month or 1.5 months. So biology just takes that time. But these studies are ongoing, and we expect the readout to be in Q3 of that. And the new thing is then that while this is still going on, we will also initiate. It's not going on yet, but we will then in Q3 also start with the neuroendocrine tumors and then the head and neck tumors with the uTreat.
Thank you. Then there is a couple of questions relating to the approach as you in the future will approach the market. There's a question relating to the pricing of uTrace and uTreat, and also is this if you expect a physician not to treat patients if they seem as if the aggressiveness of the UPA is not showing a high likelihood of cancer. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I can take the last thing first.
Yeah.
Not so much about the capitalization, but it has a big value for the healthcare system and society, and is therefore normally also reimbursed very well if you have strategies that can risk stratify and identify patients that do not need treatment or aggressive treatment. And what you have to compare is that a scan in our projections, typically the compound will be priced around $3,000-4,000 US dollars. But if you save a surgery, you may save $100,000 US dollars. So you can pay for many scans, and you save discomfort and unnecessary side effects with the patient. So it's a big thing in personalized medicine. Not only, I mean, normally we focus on diagnosing disease and identifying how to treat, but very often, and in particular, for example, for prostate cancer, the trick is actually also to identify those that do not need the therapy or lighter therapy, and that is really for the benefit of the patient, but it's also extremely beneficial for the economy in the healthcare system. So it's very valuable. So that's the answer for that.
Yeah, and if I should put some words on the price tag, then it's based on comparable PET tracers like NetSpot when we are talking imaging, and the price tag is there, and the reimbursement codes are actually around 3,000 euros per scan in US, and around 1,700 in euro, and nearly the half price when we are talking imaging. If you look at the therapeutic part, it's a total different game. If you take a therapeutic theory like Lutathera, which is actually used within neuroendocrine tumors, then the price tag for a treatment series is around 170,000 euro per series. So it's a total different price tag. But that is actually how it's reimbursed at the current market.
Okay. If we go back to the updated strategy where you add these 2 new indications, you're talking in the press release from yesterday, you're talking about financial preparedness in next year, suggesting that, what are you suggesting, that you should raise a lot of capital? Because you've already said that your cash position is very strong, but I guess as if and when you move into up to 4 indications at the same time, you would need to raise capital next year. How should we interpret this?
Yeah, according to the original plan, when we went to the IPO, get listed, then we have the capitalization until we will be funded until 2024. But now we put on 2 additional indications, meaning that the cash burn will be higher. So we will need new funding 12 months before original plan. So that will be during 2023. Besides, we also will go for partnerships in specific indications. So that will be a combination of that. But right now we have a good cash position, so we will not be forced to do anything in this year, and especially not when the stock market in general are not that attractive at the moment. So, but that is what we're actually working on and have been working on since also last year. So you have to always be ready to go for new funding when it's required.
But
that is part of the strategy.
And when could we expect some more realistic timeline on and the size of any potential?
It's too early to say something about that, Henrik. But I'll say in the second part of this year we'll be more specific on what will the game plan be going forward for that.
You're also mentioning in relating to this strategy update that your partner strategy is very important to you. But I just want to better understand what are your thoughts on this, and because of course it will be validating the concept, the novel concept of theognostic. But if you can take this further yourself, what's sort of the balance consideration there?
I would say you should always develop the company as a standalone company, and that is the plan A. But we also know if you succeed and you deliver on the results, then there will also be someone someday knocking on the door. And that's actually also what happened with AAA and Insight. For instance, we don't have presented that slide today, but also I expect the M&A transactions with this field will increase during the year, because the assets in general and also the stock price and the market caps on companies like Curasight right now is very attractive. But we will not that will not be the first part. But I would say it's natural to engage partnerships within specific indication, because the big pharma have the power to develop the final step, and also to penetrate the market when we have the approval for the authorizations, both in the US and in EU.
So we should understand the potential partnership strategy to go for individual indications, and not from a general platform technology perspective.
I don't know how the big companies are thinking right now, but Novartis is actually they are actually going for those advanced both diagnostic and therapeutic platforms, but we don't know how they are thinking right now. But that I would not be surprised if something would happen someday, without saying that there's no on the table, nothing on the table right now. But I will also say for the shareholders in Curasight, it'd be more valuable to go for different indication in different companies. That would create more value, because the big pharma also have their focus in specific indications. So that would be more valuable for Curasight to make different partnerships.
Of course, the updated strategy is very interesting and has a lot of very positive potential outcomes. But what about your small company? What about your company from an internal operational point of view? Are you actually ready to and able to forward all these programs at the same time? Do you have the staff, and how should we think about that?
Yeah. We are onboarding right now the right people to be a part of the organization and to take care of the execution of the strategy. But we also want to use CIOs and specialists and hire them in for the specific tasks, because we want the best one, which is actually and that is persons sitting all over in the world right now, that we want to engage with in order to get the right results. So Curasight will not be a 200 employee company, but we will of course increase and expand the organization, but with the right persons inside, and then we will have the CIOs and consultants within the specific task when it's necessary. That will also make us more flexible, and we are able to move forward faster.
Just today with the tragic situation in Ukraine, there is this question relating, just to clarify, if there's any of your peptide is dependent on substance from Russia or Ukraine.
No.
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 Not at all. We are no interest in Ukraine or ever. No, not in, and even other not in Russia. So it will be in the US and in Europe, Western Europe.
Okay.
Denmark.
The time is running, but just a final question, if you want to comment on that. There is a couple of questions relating to of course the stock price, why the management is not buying in at these lower prices, and how come you don't have, according to the question, any large investors or institutional shareholders in Curasight. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but feel free to.
The only thing I say, unfortunately, we are restricted by a trade ban at the moment. We are not allowed to sell or buy shares, but I can see the stock price is very attractive for a buyer perspective right now. So yeah, that what I can say. So if you have some additional cash, then it could be a good opportunity.
Okay. Okay, and with that, Ulrik Krasilnikov and Andreas Kjær, thank you very much for participating in this event, and we'll of course all follow the news, upcoming news from your pipeline programs in the coming quarters. So thank you for now, or thank you from the audience for all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation.